Hey everybody, it's Al Zay Calhoun with Covenant Consultant, and welcome to this week's Facebook Live. Uh, right now, I'm broadcasting from our Facebook group. It's called Marketing Leaders Lab. What is that group about? What are these Facebook Lives about? You run a business. In most cases, folks who are watching this sell marketing services of some type. But nevertheless, you run a business. And as much marketing stuff is available on any given day, your job is to operate above the marketing stuff. Your job is to design and run a business that works for you, that works for the people you serve. And that's what these Facebook Lives are about. They're about communicating from that level. What should your agency look like? What should your business look like? Or if you call yourself a firm, what does your firm look like? And how should you be thinking so that you can build the kind of business, agency, firm that creates maximum value? This is not a place where we talk about the hacks, the tricks, the trends, the the silver bullets, because all those things ends up becoming distractions. They all end up becoming fundamental, functional distractions. And there's just no value in that, right? So you run a business, you're the leader of that business, and there's things that you have to do to create a business that is of maximum value. And that's what the Facebook group is about, and that's what these lives are about. So um, so Nelson is here. Nelson is here. Joel is here. Emily is here. Nelson says he's waiting for the picture. So Nelson, you can't see. That means Nelson, you can hear, but you can't see. Is that what you're saying? If anybody else is having a picture challenge, please tell me that you can't see for some reason. Everything on my end seems to be playing fine. I'm hearing okay. I'm seeing okay. So far, so good. But if that's not the case, please tell me now, and I'll work to troubleshoot. Um, while that's happening, while I'm getting feedback on that. So if you've got a video issue, let me know. A blank screen with the spinner, Shelby says. But Emily says, I can see you fine. Joel says he can see me fine. So we've got in this week as the technology turns. So some folks are able to see and find you okay, and other folks are unable to see the visual. And I don't know why that would be. I honestly don't know why that would be. Um, for those who are having visual trouble, let's do the tried and true. Let's please refresh your browser. Yep, Joel just said that. Let's please refresh your browser. If necessary, close your browser and open it back up. Um, and let's see if that resolves it. And so we'll do that for 30 seconds, and then we'll jump into today's content. I'll set some context that I need to set anyway. Um, so um, so I've already explained what the group is about and why this group even exists and why we even bother to have these moments to create this content. There's things you should be doing as a leader of the business. There's a thought process you should have as a leader of the business. And if you get the approach right, the thought process right, then some revenue shows up in your business. It happens almost every time. So um, huh. So Shelby sees a blur. All right. Well, just Shelby, please keep telling me what you see, and then I'll have to go back on the back end and see what that might be about. We gotta because on my end things look fine, but that's how it goes, right? On my end things look and sound fine, and then out there in the world people are having challenges. Um, so what is today about? Today's content. What do you do in those situations where the client is only trying to hire you? So what if the client in this given situation, we're not talking about hiring your agency. Maybe we're not talking about hiring you and all of your freelancers. What if you're being hired as an independent consultant, as an independent contractor? Some of those opportunities look more like a job. They look more like a 9 to 5 job than they do an agency and client relationship. But we don't always talk about this, but these are things that as you're growing your agency, every now and again, you'll get into these kinds of relationships. Maybe that you call them one-off relationships, but you're hired on as a consultant or a contractor, whatever that name might be. But the client is asking you to help them deliver something very specific in their world, and it's less about the agency and it's more about working with you. And so, how do you structure those kinds of relationships? I want to tell you a story because this is something that a private client of mine was telling me about, and we were thinking through in their situation. So, without any further ado, so let's start here. Wait a minute. Start here. Let's get my agenda going here. How about that? How about that? That part works. How about that? All right. So first part in this conversation is you got an opportunity in front of you, and um, this particular opportunity is with my potential client and with an institutional client. So this is not a local business or a really small business or some two or three person startup. This is an institution. It's a school. It's an academic institution. Okay, um, and they have a need. And so he's thinking about, kind of raising his hand, putting his name in the hat to fulfill this need, but he's got to do it the right way. So when he picked up the phone to speak with me, he and I were talking. He started off our conversation the right way. So I actually wrote down what he said. He said, Alze, I have an opportunity in front of me. I'm now at a point where I can discuss this with you intellectually and not just emotionally. That's what he said to me. He started off a conversation talking to me, and he said, I have an opportunity, and I'm now at a place, I've thought about it for a while, and I'm now at a place where I can discuss this with you intellectually, not just emotionally. My point is we all have opportunities in front of us. And as it relates to this scenario, when the opportunity is presented like a job and you run an agency, that can be very off-putting, right? I don't want to work in a cubicle, sit in meetings all day long and do the job thing. That's why I have an agency. I don't want to be bothered with that. So that's all the emotional stuff, right? That's you and your personal friction about it. But there's an opportunity in there somewhere, and how do you discuss it intellectually? So he was starting off the conversation talking about that way. We're not going to complain and fuss about the deal. We're going to try to find a way to work through the deal. Okay, so that was the first thing he said. Kudos to him for starting off the conversation the right way, having the right attitude about the opportunity. So let's understand the given scenario, right? So here's the client's basic problem. They've got data coming in from two different places. They've got data coming in from Department A and data coming in from Department B. And they need that data to speak the same language inside the same platform, right? So two software platforms, two different departments, but we got to make one decision. So that data's got to come together, and we got to resolve for that, right? So, hey, Jack, good to see you, sir. So how they've expressed the need for a person to be responsible for this collaboration of data. They know that one person should be responsible for merging these two systems. How they've framed that, the ask they've put forward, looks like a job, a 40-hour work week job, right? So they've put out an RFP, if you will, but it looks more or less like a job. Okay. So his question to me was, how do I maintain my authority and still get them what they need? That was his question to me. His question to me was, Alze, comma, how do I maintain my authority and still get them what they need? Question mark. Meaning he was very aware that even though they think they need a 40-hour work week kind of person, he's got to maintain his authority as the expert. And he has to still get them what they need. He's got to be the expert that they have to still get what they need. He already understood that about this opportunity. Let's continue. So then his next thought was, and if I can figure that out, is it even worth it? Should I even, okay, you think about it for a moment. Yeah, okay, this is I could do this, I could do that. Okay. But then I got to navigate their process. Is it even worth it? My point to you right now is before you dive into the details of the project, and I'll come see you for a meeting, and we'll do 3 proposals, and we'll talk about it 9 more times. And before you get into all of that, you've got to do your business. You're the expert. You've got to do your job on the front end, being clear about the opportunity in front of you. And is it even worth your time? So that's where he was coming from, right? That's where he was coming from, right? I know, Jack, right? Great questions from him. I know, right? All right, so let's continue. So now, because for my client, he is trying to maintain his level of expertise. He is the expert here. How do we maintain that? So we begin with understanding the situation, understanding the problem as it faces the potential client. So what do they want, right? What do they want? As we talked about, this first part here is the client framed this as a job because that's what they think they need. They think they need someone to come in for 40 hours a week and quote unquote work a job. I mean, it's data here, data here. We got to bring it together. That's the role. That's the task. It's a job, right? Again, I told you this is an academic institution. They're used to hiring people to do jobs. Like that's what they do, right? So that's their orientation. And they're most comfortable with 40-hour work week employees. That's the framing that's comfortable for them, right? That's how they think about it. And as an employer in this situation, at least how they're thinking about it, as an employer, they're used to having immediate access to their employees. That's what they're used to. They're used to having people having immediate access to their employees, right? So stop reflection for all of us. What's happening here, right? We don't get mad at the client for being a client. The client does what they do. The client operates how they operate. The client does what they believe is in their best interest. The client does whatever a client does. As an expert, you know that there are other ways of doing it, probably better ways of doing it, but they aren't the expert. They're the client. You're the expert. So naturally, they're not going to know what you know. Naturally, they wouldn't do it the way you would do it. They won't navigate it the way you would navigate it. So we can't get upset because the client doesn't do it how we think they should. We have to appreciate their perspective on their own problem. That's appropriate. That is what an expert should do. That's appropriate. Let's continue. So the next here. So now that we're clearer on what the client's trying to get done, what's important to this prospective client, let's also be clear about what the business wants. So now I'm talking about my client, right? The person who would raise his hand and pursue this opportunity. What does he want? What's important to him? So there's some framing here. There's some really important framing here that we all need to kind of agree and nod at for a moment. One of the frameworks that I offer my clients is you can only handle 5 high-touch clients at a time. So whether you consider it one-on-one work or you consider it done-for-you work, etc. But those high-touch arrangements where you got to pick up the phone and talk to folks often, where you got to get in your car and drive across town to go see somebody, where you got to have these special one-off meetings just for them. You can only handle about 5 of those at a time. And after, once you get to number 6, things start to break. So understanding your own bandwidth, understanding your own capability, we can only make space for 5 clients that are high touch. This particular client is going to end up being a high touch client, right? Do we even have space? Do we even have a spot for one of those people, right? But why even consider having high touch clients at all? I mean, a lot of what I talk about in this channel and in Inside Coveted Consultant is having less high touch, if you will. How do you deliver the highest amount of value with the fewest number of touches, right? So I'm trying to get you less involved in the business, not more involved in the business. Why would you consider one of these high touch clients at all? Because a high touch client like this represents a level up opportunity. There's an opportunity here to help an institutional client solve a very big business problem. And from that, you would get brand new insight about how to leverage your own time, brand new insight on how to help bigger clients, brand new insight on what these kinds of problems begin to look like. And your entry into this next level of functioning is this opportunity. Is it a perfect opportunity? Probably not. But you can't control that part. What you can control is how you respond to the opportunity. But the reason why we're even considering it is because this represents a next level for his business. Okay. So actually, let's a little more there. Same thing for you. So every you can't control every element of every project. That's the nature of being in business. As real people, we know that. When we talk about productizing, we're trying to control the maximum number of inputs so we can maintain our expertise, maintain our control, so we can get the client where they actually need to be. Right? Okay. But even as you offer your productized services, sometimes it's practical to take a deal that's a one-off, or take a deal that's non-typical, because that opportunity represents the next level of income, the next tier of functioning. That's what we're talking about here. All right. So same thing for you, right? Sometimes you step off your structured way of functioning because what's in front of you is your next level. All right. So let's go. Let's go. All right. So next piece here. Next piece. So then, how do I maintain my expert positioning as I consider this opportunity? I'm still the expert. Totally agree. Right. My client in this situation is the expert. It is his expertise that's being leveraged by this opportunity. So how do you maintain that? How do you maintain that expertise all the way through? So while we're having this dialogue, we were talking this through. Hey, Lynn, while we're having this dialogue and talking this through, he had a light bulb moment. My client had a light bulb moment. He said, Alze, for what these people are trying to do, these two massive systems, and bring them together, for what they're trying to do, this is a big deal, Alze. Like I've done this kind of work with previous clients, and it's taken something it's taken a significant shift in their functioning in order to create that kind of collaboration. Like, it's not just installing a software tool and walking away. Like, Alze, when I've done this with previous clients, it took a change in management. It took a change in leadership. It required 6 weeks or 6 months of effort. He was kind of spelling it out to me. So while he's spelling it out to me, I'm nodding. I'm on the phone, but I'm nodding silently while he's talking, right? And I got this kind of smile on my face. I'm nodding while he's talking, right? Because what he's being reminded of is how much effort it takes to actually solve this problem. He's reminding himself of what the major milestones are so the client can actually get this work done. And it's not just about having a warm body in the office for 40 hours a week. There's some other stuff you got to do that's actually very strategic, intentional, deliberate stuff. It's not just having an expert come in and sit down at a cubicle for X number of hours a week, or so and so hours a month. I know that. But it was in this dialogue where he was reminding himself of that truth, right? He was saying, Alze, it requires this and this and this and this. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, okay. So in order to maintain his expert positioning, he's got to bring that insight to the forefront, right? Like, you can't just sit on the insight, or just kind of put it under yourself and sit on the insight and wait for them to ask you about your brilliance. Bullcrap. Stop it. That's you being selfish. You can't just assume that they appreciate all the heavy lifting that goes into solving this problem. Stop it. You're the expert, not them. They don't know. So you've got to remember, for your own good, you've got to remember these major building blocks that are required to solve their problem. And you've got to be prepared to talk about those building blocks. You've got to be prepared to paint that picture of challenge. This is your job. This is your job. And when you don't do that, you're not doing the job of an expert. So how do we maintain expert positioning? This is what we're talking about. You got to remind yourself of all of the major building blocks required for the client to get to where they want to go. To summarize that, in this scenario, this institution doesn't need an employee. What they need is an advisor. They don't need an employee. They need an advisor, someone who can guide them toward the best case situation. Okay, I said that. Okay, all right. So if that means something to you, great. If not, we're just gonna keep moving here. So then the next piece of our conversation, was now how do you proceed? So now we've done the digesting, we've done the analysis. Now we understand the situation in front of us. We understand why the client is functioning, how they're functioning. We understand how we want to function as an agency, and we understand what we've got to do in order to drive this program the right way. So now, how do I proceed? What's my next step, right? Most people, before we go into what's my next step, most people start their thinking here. An opportunity comes up. What do I do next? Something happens. What do I do now? And you've skipped there were 5 other agenda items before number 6. And you skip them all. You don't consider any of those. You go right into what's my next step. And the revenue is lost is lost as a result. The revenue, keeping the revenue, the long-term client, the building of your business, all the good stuff you want to happen as a result of being in this project is one, because you thought through the previous 5 agenda items. It's lost because you didn't think through the previous 5 agenda items. You've got to consider the opportunity in front of you, and you got to slow down in order to do that. All right. All that said, how do you proceed? What's your next step? Okay. Let's remember something here: is that high touch. We agree. This is going to be one of our 5 high touch arrangements. High touch is good for the potential client because they need the accessibility. It's the way they think. It's the way they function. They're going to want to touch you on a regular basis. So they need the high touch because it's good for them. Conversely, the high touch is good for you, or is good for my client in this situation. The high touch is good for you because you need to go into their world and see what that looks like. You can't do it from afar at a computer, 90 miles away, or 190 or 5,090 miles away. You got to be in the mix with them so you can see who talks to who and who doesn't talk to who. You've got to see what were they about to do before they worked with you? Before they hired you, what were they about to do? And have them explain it to you and have them show you the spreadsheets and the documents. Okay, y'all going to go do that? Whoa, let's do this instead. But you can't have that dialogue. It's more difficult to have that dialogue when you're virtual or separate. This part of it, you got to be sitting there with them. You got to be in it there. You got to be in there with them. You got to have the obvious conversation and the sub-obvious conversation. You got to have the main meeting and the pre-meeting and the post-meeting. But you can't, it's harder to do all that when you're not sitting there in and amongst the client. So this high touch thing is not only good for them, but it's also good for you. It gives you the tactical insight you need so you can later productize a service like this one or a delivery like this one. The better you understand the problem, the better you can fix it. How about that? The better you understand the problem, the better you can fix it. So even in this situation, let's continue with that. Even in this situation, you'd want to get paid $25,000 for this arrangement. Maybe when you add all the numbers up, you're going to get paid $17,500. So you get paid at a discount. But what you learn as a result becomes scalable insight for your business. Take the discount, man. Don't fuss about the discount. What you need is the insight so you can flip it 4, 5, 10 times inside your business. So you can get the discount, or you can get the insight at a discount, or you can not get the insight at all. Sometimes to get it into the next level, you've got to make the sacrifice. You've got to take the discount, so to speak. That's practical. Business person to business person, owner to owner. That's practical. And sometimes you got to do that. Okay, great. Said it. So in this situation, for him in this situation, they've asked for a resume. That's what they do. Yeah, if someone's hiring for a 40-hour work week framed gig, yeah, they ask for a resume. Send the resume. Okay, they are asking people to interview. Should you interview? Yes. That's their framing. That's how they proceed with this. Yes, take the interview and go. Now, bottom line is this: you can't help them at all if you can't get in the room to talk to somebody. And getting in the room to talk to someone is the interview. You can't help them otherwise. So if we're going to do this, this is the way we have to do it. Now, what happens in the interview is a whole different conversation now. What happens in the interview is where you get to spread your wings and be the expert. What happens in the interview, forget what they call it. Who cares what they call it? You finally get to talk to a human being about the real problem taking place. Now that you're sitting in the room, you get to have another totally different kind of conversation. Now you get to better understand from them what they're trying to get done. Now you can better understand from them what problems that they're having trying to accomplish that goal. And then you can match what you do versus the problems they told you about. And then see if they overlap. Now you have a format and a platform to do that. Play ball, right? Like now you're the expert, right? But you're going to have to go through their process in order to get the opportunity to be their expert. So once you're clear about their problem and your solution, and they actually overlay, then you can propose what you believe is the most appropriate path to go where they're trying to go. And for his situation, the basic framing is, yes, you can hire an expert to sit here at a desk and do the given job for 40 hours a week. I understand that, and I'm sure you've got 10 other people who are willing to accept that opportunity. But from what I understand, your goal isn't to have someone sit at a desk for 40 hours a week. What you just told me was your goal was to get these two systems to merge together. I want to help you do that. And so doing that requires the following: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Brand new conversation. Now, at the end of all of that, they can take what you've offered or leave what you've offered. That's their choice. They can do whatever they want. They're the client, it's their scenario, it's their situation. They can do whatever they want. Your job was to offer a legitimate solution to their legitimate problem. That's your job. So you offer the right conversation, and then they make a decision about what they want to do. So there you have it. So that's what we talked about. This happened, I think, yesterday or the day before. This literally just occurred. But this is the kind of thing that people in your situation are confronted with, right? Sometimes you got to take a one-off opportunity in order to get the next opportunity. And the one-off might not be the way you would do it, right? And one of the sticking points is having to come into their office, right? Like that ends up, I don't want to have to go to work, right? Well, again, I've already made the case here. Sometimes you've got to consider the opportunity in order to realize the opportunity. And at the end of the day, it's your choice on whether or not you want to pursue it, right? So, questions, comments, concerns, thoughts about today's story of the day, right? For those of you who right now who are considering one of these kinds of opportunities, I hope that this framing was valuable to you. I hope that it helps you better understand if you should or should not take the opportunity, and if you choose to pursue it, how you can pursue it and still keep your expertise, how you can pursue it and still maintain your boundaries, how you can pursue it and really be the solution that the client is after. And if you're able to be a solution for that kind of client, see, now you can double up and you can triple up and you can begin to expand because you know what that problem looks like. So Good deal here. Good deal here. So, got a couple of comments here. Jack responded along the way. He said, "It's what I call being on the outside looking in. You can't do yourself any good by not being on the inside." Absolutely. That's just reframing the point I was making earlier, right? If you're really trying to be helpful, you got to take a step in their direction. Period. What else? Were there any other questions that were here? So far, so good. All right. So we got the tech challenges figured out. Nelson, good to have you. So far, so good. Great. Okay, so there was at least one question that came earlier, and I am going to summarize that for us briefly here, because the question was long. Now, here's what's interesting. So Nelson asked the question. Nelson's direct question was, "How do you serve your customers with integrity?" That was the question where he started. But when he put some context to that question, a much different question unfolded. And I think that's so interesting because that's often what happens, right? I work with people like you all the time. That's what happens. You start with where you start. And then by the time we talk about it for a minute, you realize that your answer is actually somewhere else. So Nelson's question, how do you serve your customers with integrity? Here's what he's describing. What Nelson was describing is when a client works with him, they are expecting access to his connections, to his database. In other words, clients are working with him because they think that he will make an immediate connection to someone in his database, and then they will get their next opportunity. Right, so they're assuming speed, like it just in one swooping motion. Hire Nelson, get an opportunity just like that, bang bang, right? Okay, and Nelson's kind of got some pushback on that, saying it doesn't work like that, right? Like my network isn't for sale like that. I'm not selling my network like that. That's ethically, I have some challenges with that. Nelson is also saying that in order for you to be valuable to someone in my network or anybody else, you got to understand your own business better. There's some business work that you got to do inside your own business. Okay. So how do you have that conversation, right? How do you tell people that, right? Um, and here's where that applies to folks, no matter what you sell. For so many of us, clients sign up for our services and programs, etc., expecting immediate results. Everybody loves immediate results. Everybody loves for poof magic, right? I signed up, poof, and a unicorn shows up. Like everybody loves that stuff. Okay, what do you do about that? How do you communicate about that? So to Nelson and everyone else, right? The conversation here is about your boundaries. So right now I'm talking about Nelson and Nelson's boundaries. I'm talking about you and your boundaries. How is it? Why is it? You got to ask this rhetorical question to yourself. I'm talking to Nelson and everybody else. How is it? Why is it that people get on your phone and are expecting wizardry? How is that? How do people find out about you, book a time to speak with you, end up on the phone, and are expecting magic? Like, where did they get that from? And why is it that they're able to get on your phone and talk to you with that expectation? So either one of two things happened. Either in your own process to get people on the phone and to work with clients, either in your own process, you are encouraging that thought process, encouraging that assumption, or you're specifically not discouraging that assumption. In other words, you should be saying, if you don't believe in that, hey, listen, my referral base is not for sale. My network is not for sale. Hey, there's no magic here. I don't have, you can't just sign up and immediately get a win in the next 48 hours. If that's really how you feel about your services, then you have to specifically set the bounds beforehand. People have to know what to expect and what not to expect as a result of working for you or working with you. That is your responsibility as a person that runs the business. And I got to tell you, there are a lot of folks out there. Maybe it's not you. Maybe it's not you. But there are a lot of folks out there who are not doing that. There are a lot of folks out there who are not coming forward to their clients and saying, here's what you can expect. 1, 2, 3. Here's what you cannot expect, what you should not expect. 4, 5, 6. So if you want 1, 2, 3, you're in the right place. But if you're looking for 4, 5, and 6, this is not the right place. But you've got to be deliberate about that. You've got to be assertive about that. So Nelson's giving me the thumbs up. He's saying set the bounds beforehand. Yeah, you've got to. That's your job. So I'm leaning on this moment. I'm pushing on this moment because you'll want to blame somebody else. You'll keep blaming the client for being a client. Why do they want what they want so quickly? Why do children always want candy? That's what kids want. Kids want candy. Period. So if the kid is staying over at your house, if it's a sleepover at your house, you got to set the boundaries for what it's like to hang out at your house. Hey, you can come hang out with me. We can have tons of fun. I don't have a lot of candy here. Period. Right? If you want lollipops and Snickers bars, I don't have them here. Do you want to hang out or not? Right? Like that becomes the way of having that conversation. It's really important. It's really important to end this without over communicating here. What you'll find is that when you draw, the brighter you draw that line, the brighter you say, this is what we do, this is what we don't do. The brighter you draw that line, the people who like what you do will run to you harder and faster. They will appreciate your courage as you step forward and say, we are experts in this, and we do this way, and we solve this kind of problem. If you've got that kind of problem, you should go somewhere else and get it solved. You this one I wish I could prove it to you mathematically. This one you got to play it out for yourself. When you see it happen in your own world, as you more aggressively set those boundaries, you find that clients who respect you come, man. Lynn's giving me the thumbs up because I know Lynn knows. I've watched Lynn do it. Man, it's a night and day kind of thing. All right, I don't I don't want to belabor the point. So I'll check questions, comments, concerns, thoughts for what's going on today. I'm checking my questions area once, twice, 3 more times. Right. So Nelson's saying, matter of fact, right. So Nelson's saying, draw that line. Right on. Yeah, man. You got to draw it. You got to draw that line. And this is a thing, by the way, y'all. This is not some checklist. There's some things you got to get clear in your own brain. There's some things you got to get clear in your language as you describe what you do. There are things you have to get clear on as you onboard clients. This is not just say this phrase, get this result. It's not, y'all. It's not. You've got to. It's work. It's work. Lynn's in the group. Ask Lynn. Ask Lynn about this. Is work. You got to do the work of this. So so far so good. So far so good. Looks like today the technology has held up pretty well. We had some challenges with folks not being able to see and hear in the beginning. Oh, Zander's got a question. So Zander says, how far do you take it? The boundaries. Zander, ask the follow-up question. That question is broad, so I can be helpful. Let's push on that for a minute. What do you mean? How far do you take it? What do you mean? There's a concern that you have there, Zander, and I want to highlight that while we're live. So Lynn says, got to do the work. You do. Like, look, Lynn, not her words, right? Not mine. Got to do the work. Like there's some in what we're describing today. You know what? I made the point. I made the point in today's content of the Facebook Live. I said most people get an opportunity and then jump to, what do I do about it? They jump from opportunity. What do I do about it? And I said there's some stuff in the middle that must be considered. And that's what I'm talking. That's the work that I'm talking about. You got to think deliberately through those things so you can, in fact, if you decide to do it or not do it, you made a healthy decision. This is invisible stuff. Nobody talks about this stuff. It's so important. In fact, while I'm in this mode, this is why I've got a coaching program, because these are things that have to be thought through. If it could be delivered to you in a template, I'd make a template and just give it to you. Matter of fact, I've done that with other things on the website. I got templates galore. But what we're talking about and making this work for your business, if you want these next level opportunities, if you want to be able to turn these next level opportunities into longer term opportunities, there's a level of strategy, there's a level of intention, there's a level of care that you have to have as you execute on these things. And I'd like to help you do that execution. And that's why there's a group coaching program. So we focus on client acquisition, client service, client retention, making those things systemized inside your business. There's a link up, down, left, right, somewhere around this video where you can click that link. There's a training you can watch that explains the entire program, so you know what you're getting yourself into. And once you've seen that training, you can schedule time with me, and then we can talk about it. So that's why there's a program, y'all. Again, if it was template worthy, I'd make one and just give it to you. But this one's deeper than that. It's heavier than that. And those that know what I'm talking about are nodding right now. Wherever you are, you're nodding right now because you know what I'm talking about. It's heavier than just do X thing. All right. So Zander asked the question. Zander says, obviously, we don't cure cancer. So I asked Zander to follow up on his how far do you push the boundaries. Zander says, obviously, we don't cure cancer, but do you say that? If you clearly communicate what you do and don't do, how do you keep from talking too much into what you don't do? Right. So. Here we go. All right. So where Xander's coming from is Xander's asking a question that many people want to ask, but sometimes are afraid to ask. So what Xander's asking, what he's saying is, I don't want to talk myself out of a deal. Alze, I'm sitting in front of a potential client. We're having dialogue. And Alze, what you're saying to me is I should start drawing boundaries. So Alze, what you're saying to me is the more I draw these boundaries, aren't I putting more distance between me and the prospective client? Aren't I talking myself out of a deal? Aren't I talking myself out of money? Who does that, Alze? That's ridiculous. Right? Xander's giving me a thumbs up. Look at Xander's thumbs up, right? Yeah, right? That's ridiculous, Alze. Why would I talk myself out of business? This is why there's a group coaching program, folks, because we got to think about this. This is not something there's no magic ta-da. You got to think about this and be intentional and be thoughtful about this. But here's the basic premise. In fact, let's let Lynn respond. So Lynn is responding to Zander. Lynn says, so what you can deliver versus what you can't deliver. Lynn works with authors, and so for many authors, they are trying to sell books. That's an important metric for authors. But look at what Lynn says. Lynn says, I can help authors sell more books, but I can't guarantee book sales. There are people out there who will lie and say they can. I can guarantee exposure that will help sell the books. I think that's a great response. That's a great starting response. Now I know Lynn has depth of that response because Lynn's a former client, so I know she's got some stuff underneath that she can talk about. But if you're having trouble with this issue, I think where Lynn is landing right here is a great place for you to start. There are things you can promise and things you can't promise, and you got to be honest about that. And where Lynn doesn't promise selling 1,000 books or 5,000 books or 10,000 books, maybe you can make that promise. Maybe for what you know and how you know how to do it, you can promise X number of sales or Y number of sales or Z number of sales. So if so, you do it your way and Lynn does it her way. What's important here is that you've got to keep integrity in your offering. You've got to keep integrity in your service. So if you know how to do X and you know that X creates Y result, promise that. Make that promise and keep that promise. All right, there's more to this. All right. One more thing to add on top of what Lynn said is Zander and everybody else. It is your job to be clear about the problem you solve. And there are a variety of problems that live in a business. There are a variety of marketing problems that live in a business. You do not have to be held to closing a certain number of sales. You do not have to be held to a certain number of leads. Every marketing related service doesn't generate leads that pop out of the ground. That's not the nature of the service. Just to, for example, there's video production, there's content production, there's email writing, there's web design. Can I go on? There's all these things that people actively pay for that do not immediately erupt in new sales. So you don't have to be held to that. But here's the rub, and here's why there's a program. The rub is you can't hold yourself to that standard. That's the rub, is that you can't allow yourself to be pinned down, right? Because you'll do it to yourself. You'll say, "Oh, I've got to generate business form immediately, and if I can't do that, then I'm worthless." You'll do that, and you'll bring that limiting belief into the conversation. And when you bring that limiting belief into the conversation, you've ruined the conversation, not the client. It's your fault, not the client's. Client doesn't know what the boundaries are. They have no clue what the boundaries are. They have no clue on how to sell, on how to buy these services. They have no clue on how to solve their problem. If they did, they'd be doing it already. So they're talking to you because they're looking for some expertise. So be the expert. Tell them what's needed to solve their problem. And sometimes the problem that needs to be solved isn't about this 45-degree spike in sales. This doubling in sales, for example. This is the truth, everybody. This is the truth. But the challenge here, hopefully, what you hear me kind of highlighting for you, the challenge here is your approach and how you think about it. And if you think about it better, you'll get a better result. But if you've got limited, constricted thinking, then you'll get a limited and constricted result. That starts with you. It's not the client's fault. They're just the client. All right. So far so good, y'all. So far so good. Any other questions, thoughts? I'm looking at my question post one more time because I see I got some more notifications. I just want to make sure that the good people who are asking the question get it answered. No, so far so good. And I'm checking one final time. My computer's acting a little snarky. My computer's acting a little snarky. We had to have a text. Something happened. We had to have something happen. Let's see if I can move. Okay, I can't. Well, in any case, in just a moment, I'm getting ready to close this down. So I won't. You don't have to sit with me while I figure out how to make my live broadcast stop here because my computer is kind of paused on me. Um, so if there's a question when I get there, I'll address it. If there isn't, I'll go ahead and wave bye to you. Let's see if I can get a workaround here. There's always something. How funny is that? There's always something. Okay, so good people, we're signing off. Good to have you today. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Okay.